Jenn Paul has been appointed Industry Relations Specialist, Anti-Black Racism, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at ACTRA Toronto. A Canadian filmmaker of Indian and Ugandan heritage and founder of Token Creative, Jenn brings to ACTRA Toronto a vast range of industry experience, including producing, distributing, and marketing productions. While at Bell Media, Jenn co-founded and directed the enterprise's largest diversity and inclusion employee resource group, the Diversity and Inclusion Think Tank. Jenn studied at York University for film production and is a volunteer with the Neighborhood Arts Network. BIPOC Executive Search invites you to join us in congratulating Jenn and thanks you for tuning into this edition of 5 Questions.
Well, Jenn, congratulations on the new inaugural role. So I'm going to get into the first question then. So this was your first experience going through an executive search. What was your experience like working with us?
Yeah, I mean, interviews can be very scary. For me, they're nerve-wracking. I get all the anxiety in the world. But it was really great to sort of have that vote of confidence from BIPOC Executive Search before going into it. I knew I already had some allies in the room who were familiar with me, and I had those same familiar faces on my interview calls, and it was just really encouraging and reassuring to have somebody who believed in me already in the room. So yeah, it was really great to have you.
That's great. And we were just so delighted that you expressed interest in this. I mean, both Stacey Ann and I, after speaking with you, were like, Jenn is this prodigy and, give her the platform and it is on. She is going to be taking over. Like Stacey, and do you remember both of us just talking about her in that way? It's just
Yeah, absolutely.
incredible. When you think about, navigating your career and, thinking about opportunities that you're interested for, have you ever felt like you were overlooked for opportunities or not being supported to use your talents in its full, your talents fully, but then also too, like, what do you think that, companies are and supervisors are missing out on whenever something like this occurs?
Prodigy. I don't know about that, but thank you. that is very kind. I'm not sure if overlooked is the correct word, but I think that there are a few roles out there for people who are both creative and strategic and who want to affect positive change, and that's what makes it such a challenge, or that's why it was challenging for me. And I think that companies miss out on it when they don't make the most of somebody's talents. They miss that potential impact that employee could be making if they were just better utilized. I know quite a few people who are just so smart and creative, but are just totally underemployed in their current positions just because they have these skill sets that live a little bit outside of their current positions. And I think it's up to companies to sort of recognize that talent when they see it and then figure out how to make the most of it. And then also figure out how to make sure their employees stay fulfilled in their work.
That's great.
Great. Jenn, why do you think it's so important for the entertainment industry to do better when it comes to representation and diversity?
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially in the past year, everything that we've seen, I mean, the entertainment industry is our strongest tool against hate. It brings people together, it fosters understanding, it educates, it inspires. It doesn't matter what our differences are. I think it's something that everyone can find joy in. And I know for me growing up, my elementary school was not incredibly multicultural yet. So it was important for me to see people who looked like me on screen because I didn't always have it in real life outside of my family. And I was so lucky to grow up. We had shows, we had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Family Matters. And I learned things on those shows about the color of my skin and how the world might perceive me before I was actually old enough to live it. So yeah, I think it's so important and it makes such a difference, especially for our young people.
Okay, do we all remember Family Matters? Can we just appreciate that show? We just take a second to appreciate that Matters. I mean, we know Fresh Prince, but I'm hopefully when people are watching this, they're like, oh yeah, and Family Matters.
Do people not know Family Matters? I had the biggest crush on Stefan or Cal. but not Steve
Not Steve
Urkel.
Urkel.
So did I.
How could you not? I mean,
Um, so the role that you're in, it is industrial relations specialist, anti-Black racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion for ACTRA Toronto. It is a big mandate. And is there a tangible goal or two that you would like to see realized in the first 3 years in the role?
I think for me, it boils down to two things. One, it's who our membership consists of, and two, how are they being treated? So all of the plans, everything that I'm working towards over the next little while, it's really focused on increasing representation within our membership, and then working in concert with the rest of the industry to make sure that our actors, specifically our diverse actors, are being treated with respect. And these goals are things that are not always easy to measure, but we had a census back in 2017, and I know we're hoping to do one in the next year or two, and that's what's going to give us the data to be able to show us if we have made a positive change in the ethnic diversity of our membership, and I'm hoping that it'll better align with provincial averages next time we do one. And also just working towards closing the wage gap that exists for female and ethnically diverse performers.
Well, there's something that you did in your interview that I've never seen anyone do in my 15 years in executive search. Like, I have seen thousands of interviews, Jen Paul, and you were the only person that put together a comprehensive website. Like, we're talking about something that was ready to launch. It was complete in complete form when you had to prepare some opening remarks. And, we were blown away, the panelists were blown away. And I have to now ask you the question, what advice do you have for people interviewing for a new position? Any advice that you would want to say, this might be something you want to think about when you're preparing? Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad me being extra finally came in handy. But I don't know, like starting my career as a producer, I remember hearing such a great piece of advice, and somebody said, fix it in prep. And there's this long running joke about fixing things in post, fix it in post production in film, when you mess up something on set. And for anyone who's actually done that, it is very expensive and very time consuming, and it's a huge nightmare. So the idea is you fix it in prep, you prep as much as you can before you go to camera, and hopefully that means that you don't have those same problems that pop up. So that's really something I've tried to live by. It's why I prepped for my interview. So my advice is to prep. If you really, really, really want a certain position, and if you've landed an interview, then you have one chance to make a first impression. I can't tell you how much ACTRA Toronto content I consumed before that first interview. I probably spent like 8 hours prepping, from watching town halls and webcasts and reading really long annual reports, and then speaking to actors about what challenges they're facing, looking at all their social media, all the communications I could find. It was a lot. But then, for that final interview, when I was asked to prepare a 10-minute presentation about how I would elevate what the D&I committee is already doing, that's when I took all that research that I had done early on, and I thought really strategically about what I would realistically do to improve the organization and fulfill their anti-Black racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion mandate. I spent a bunch of time thinking about big ideas for events and policy changes and resources, and ways that people could take action. And then I invested a whole $2 on a domain, and I took a weekend to build those ideas into an actual website. Yeah, and I mean, I guess I could have done a PowerPoint, but this was a way that for me made sense to organize my thoughts. And it also just let me show my capabilities to them, as someone who can think strategically and do all the producing that it takes to get things done, but then also has a bit of a graphic design background too. So yeah, that would be my advice. Over prepare. Just prepare a whole ton, because I don't think it's something that you'll regret.